what gives you confidence that they could beat them in the playoffs? Because that's my thing.
Well, because it's Lamar Jackson. And look.
Exactly.
Welcome into Sports Bluff, everybody. Week 1 is in the books. Tristan, what did you think about Week 1? Just in a total summary of Week 1, give it to me.
Honest summary, a little disappointed in the Sunday games, but overall, we had a bunch of good games. Most of them were Thursday, Friday, and Sunday night. The ones packed in most of Sunday, I think, were average. And my main takeaway, if I might give a just miniature rant, tiny rant, can we please start playing preseason again? I really wish they would start playing in the preseason because you see the sloppiness in Week 1.
Yes.
You see that guys aren't prepared, and you really don't start seeing like full-scale NFL football until like Week 3 or 4. I understand you don't want injuries, but I don't know any numbers on this. I feel like there are guys that get injured because they're not conditioned well. Yes, you're going to have your occasional person go down in preseason. I understand that. But I feel like you would have people that don't go down because they were conditioned up to speed for Week 1. Anyway, I miss it because Week 1 is sloppy. With that said, I am a football junkie, and I got a fix today, and I enjoyed every second of it.
Did you see the newest news, the newest job posting?
They looking for a new cop in Miami?
No, the Ravens are actually looking for a tight end with smaller shoes.
Okay. I've also heard they're looking for a quarterback that doesn't need a doctor to provide the Heimlich every time he's in a close game.
Maybe they'll find both all in one. Let's move on to our first game of the night. Tristan, the Rams and the Lions put on a show for a Sunday night. It did not disappoint. To me, this NFC juggernaut, it was obviously the best game of the week to me in Week 1. I think overtime kind of makes that true. But also, these two teams on the field, they just looked like the most well-rounded teams. Yeah, there was some sloppiness. Obviously, like you had mentioned in the opener, not playing preseason, these guys do get tired. You do see that, especially on the defensive side of the ball, happen pretty quick. I mean, early in the third quarter, the Rams defense was just kind of gassed out. The Rams did make a pivot at halftime, it seemed, and they put on a fight to come back into this game. Ultimately, I think that the Lions are just a better football team as it stands right now. Losing Puka during the game did hurt a lot. Tell me what you think. What is your initial reaction to this game? Do you also think that these two teams are the best in the NFC right now?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely at the top, right? The really all that this Lions-Ram games does is solidify that these are two of the Super Bowl contenders, right? These are two Super Bowl threats. Both of these teams could win a championship, and they went to war tonight. I'll say this. You say you feel like the Lions are the best team. They won the game, but I really came away impressed with the Rams, and not just because I'm high on them, not just because I've, been kind of riding the Rams since last season, but the Rams were dealing with a complete makeshift offensive line. I mean, they basically had 5 starters in different positions that weren't typical. The fact that they were able to stay in this game, run the ball semi-effectively, I mean, not to their, ideal, but they had 83 total rushing yards. It was still a factor in the offense. Stafford threw 49 times, more than you would like, but I was surprised that they were able to stay competitive and really almost win the game with that offensive line, all those injuries, Puka going out. The Rams had a tough injury luck of it, and they were still able to hang in there with the Lions up until the end, and the Lions just delivered the drive they needed at the end of the football game.
When the Lions were running the ball, they looked unstoppable. David Montgomery just gashed everywhere in the field.
Dude, that overtime drive, David Montgomery just put the team on his shoulders and said, I'll do it.
Yeah, he said, hey, load up here. I got you. Let's move. And they couldn't stop him. Jahmyr Gibbs was the same way. They mostly utilized him in the passing game, which it works, those little swing routes out and everything.
But when he went between the tackles tonight, he was effective, surprisingly so.
He didn't do bad. This offensive line is really, really good. It has
terrific.
Great blocking tight ends with Laporta and the other guy, 80-something, don't know his name. But, Laporta's there, and that's all that matters. He was underutilized. I know this because he's on my fantasy roster. And didn't do great. But, when the running game was happening, you didn't need to rely on Jared Goff. Like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And that's what the Lions did really well tonight. They stuck to the run. I was really proud of that. I think that Dan Campbell didn't freak out one thing I do want to ask you, what do you think of the timeout situation at the end? Sean McVay not using the timeouts, especially after that 10-second runoff.
I'm actually completely fine with it because I feel like at that point, it has been so difficult for the Rams to move the football. It's not like the Rams were going out there and driving it every single play. Like the drives they had were very, very difficult. And most of the Rams' points actually came off of Lions penalties. Like they had, I think, their first 10 points came off of Detroit penalties. It was one that was a roughing the passer and one that was a pass interference. So the Rams had to get some help to even get on the board. If their offense had been fully efficient, fully healthy, yeah, you want to use your timeouts there. But the way the defense has been playing, I was okay with Sean McVay saying, no, we're going to let it run. We're going to, try to win this game on defense. Because now in this whole offensive-minded culture, it's like, oh, well, why didn't he just want to, use his timeout? I'm not saying you're saying this. I'm just saying you get this a lot. It's like, and get the ball back. Well, defense is half of the game of football. He trusts his defense to make a stop. And ultimately, by the way, they did. They forced the field goal, which forced overtime. I was more critical on that drive of the way Dan Campbell or maybe Ben Johnson seemed a little lackadaisical with their offensive play calling. It almost was like they were trying to kill time because they didn't want to.
Playing for overtime.
Yeah. They were playing for overtime. That's exactly right. That bothered me. And I thought they were kind of going to lose the game. The drive that they had in overtime was the drive and the ferocity I thought they would have at the end of the fourth.
Yep. Yeah, they went away from the run in that 2-minute offense,
Yes.
And I disagreed with that.
And they had all their timeouts.
Yes, they did. I disagreed with that, but ultimately the Lions won. I'm happy that I picked the Lions as the Super Bowl team because out of all the teams that played, I know there were 14 other games. This was my favorite by far. And then also It was the most, competitive. I do think the Rams have a few things to work on, especially we don't know what the status of Puka is. We'll probably know first thing tomorrow morning. And hopefully there's no big injury. Hopefully he can come back in a couple of weeks. But when the Rams were on the field, it was more laborious when they were on the field. It was something like they just didn't have those really flashy plays as much as the Lions did, or at least those big gash plays.
They had a couple, but it took a long time to get them and for them to pop.
Mainly at the end of like the last 5 minutes when Stafford threw that how he hit that guy.
You talking about when he was falling backwards and hit the crossing route?
How?
Incredible play.
Like Stafford people forget, like vintage Stafford, the no-look passer, he was the OG to do that. Like
he's so good.
He is very, very good for his age. Put nothing past the Rams. They are in this fight for the long haul, I believe.
I agree.
But what we saw tonight was just the display of the two best NFC teams in the market.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really the takeaway from this game. Both of these teams are going to be contenders. They're going to be playoff threats. The only concern with the Rams is injuries and just making sure you can get guys healthy, particularly the offensive line and Puka, and stay healthy because that offensive line is not going to survive the whole season. To Detroit, last point, they wanted to address the secondary this offseason. Man, they did it. The secondary played great. I was really impressed with both defenses. Detroit trying to address the secondary and Los Angeles trying to deal with the retirement of Aaron Donald. I felt like the Rams defense, you look at the score and you're like, oh, 26-20. The Rams defense played excellent for most of the football game. They gave their offense a chance. It was just a struggle for them to put up points. So even though obviously one team had to lose, we knew before this game both teams were going to be fine. I came away feeling the same way I did going into this game that, yeah, these are two teams that could win the Super Bowl. It was a great game, probably my favorite of the weekend as well.
What a Sunday night. All right, Tristan, let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, man. This was, if you guys tuned in to the picks, this was my locked in. I would bet the house on it. And oddly enough, I'm moving out tomorrow because my house is gone. The Bengals completely crapped the bed on this.
And hold on. Time out. Your lock was Patriots plus 9.5. So you can buy a new house, my friend.
Oh, there we go. Okay. They were plus 9.5. I forgot. You took the minus 9.5.
I was the fool.
Well, with all these teams we're picking, who knows? But okay, in that case, then I'm getting a second house tomorrow. Somebody else is moving into this house. I'm moving into the bigger one.
Perfect.
That's what's happening. Let's talk about the Bengals, though. The Patriots, did they surprise you at all? And then also, is this just a fluke, or are you really concerned about this Bengals team?
Man, I'm definitely concerned. I don't think you could come away from this game not concerned. We know that the Cincinnati Bengals get off to a slow start, but do you happen to have their schedule on you?
Yep. So Chiefs, Commanders, Panthers, Ravens, Giants.
Okay, so some easier teams than I thought, but that's not, an easy stretch, especially when you lose to the Patriots. Anything's on the table at that point. The
only thing I'll say is that the defense of the Patriots is probably one of the best defenses that they'll play aside from Kansas City and Baltimore in the next 5 weeks.
Yeah, so and again, it's hard to really know who teams are in week one. Was this
exactly?
Jamar Chase, the whole contract situation, the T. Higgins thing, the Burrow injury. Obviously, things haven't been great in the Bengals offseason and their training camp, but this was just a rough game. And really, it was mistakes and it was lack of execution for the Bengals. They had a fumble when they were about to score a touchdown earlier in the game. When they fumbled right there, it really felt like the game got away from them and they could never pull back. They could not run the football for the life of them. The big takeaway is that they missed Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon had an absolute field day for Houston. I think he ran for like 130 yards or something, and the Bengals could barely run the football at all. Third down efficiency, 4 for 11. They struggled to convert drives, keep them alive. It was just a rough go. 70 yards rushing total for the Cincinnati Bengals, and their defense did okay, but even their defense gave up bigger plays than they should when you're facing Brissett and the Patriots. And that Patriots offensive line, they really couldn't get at them like they wanted to. Pair that with 2 turnovers, it's a recipe for disaster. It was sloppy, and they weren't ready for the football game.
They didn't score their first points until 1 minute and 13 seconds left in the third quarter.
Yes,
that's bad. They were able to score 1 touchdown and 1 field goal the entire game.
Yeah,
now, T. Higgins not playing did not help either. So I guess you can say, well, maybe they can get a mulligan, and maybe week 2 that the Bengals will turn things around.
But you've got to go play Kansas City.
But it wasn't that they lost. It was that they lost this bad and looked this sloppy.
Right. Losses happen. We know people are going to lose on week 1.
But what did we say preseason? You nailed it when you said the Bengals always start slow.
Yep.
Will this be a slow start, or will this be their ultimate destiny?
Well, okay, so here's my question to you. When we're looking at the Bengals, obviously they drop a loss to the Patriots, which should have been a gimme game, should have been a get-right game, but obviously I'm willing to give a little leeway. We joke as stuff on this show. We're not like the ESPN shows that come on after week 1 are like, what the hell is wrong with the Cincinnati Bengals? We play it up and try to be entertaining, but we're honest. So anything can happen. It's week 1. We really don't know who these teams are. The Patriots might be way better than we thought. The Bengals are notorious for this. My worry is that the Bengals' slow start, how slow are we talking? When did they turn it around? If they go to Kansas City next week and look great, okay. Honestly, I kind of have a feeling they are. I don't feel like Mahomes is just going to bury Burrow. It feels like Burrow is going to find something extra and put the team on his back. But after Kansas City's performance, I don't know. The Bengals are going to have to do a lot of soul searching. And it just feels like the Bengals used to be elite somewhere in a game. The defense would be elite. The passing would be elite. The rushing would be elite. They would have one element of their team that really just kept hitting you. Their third down conversion rate. How many times has Buffalo or Kansas City played them? And it's like every third down, Joe Burrow makes a play. And in this game, it was the opposite. Everything was mediocre. It's not that anything Cincinnati did was awful. It was just all subpar, sloppy. And it almost felt like the team showed up after the offseason and didn't have a training camp. That's kind of what Cincinnati looked like.
They had 2 turnovers, okay? You can't have 2 turnovers in a game and expect an outcome when by the way, the Patriots didn't have a turnover at all. You can't expect an outcome with this type of defense to really go any other way. Now, I'll give credit to Mayo. Like, he coached a great game. He is well-deserved of this win. To go to the Bengals and beat them at home week 1, I mean, kudos to you. Like, that is a great job. However, I'm not foolish enough to believe that the Patriots have what it takes to make it down the stretch. This is one of those games where they win when they weren't supposed to. It's not going to happen too often. They caught the Bengals sleeping. The Bengals have a lot of other organizational stuff going on that didn't help them out here. They don't know how to use the rushing game yet because Mixon's gone. Like you said, they do miss him. And, Joe Burrow was just, he didn't actually have a bad game. I mean, I think he was like 21 for 29 or something like that. Like, he had a decent game.
Efficient, but not spectacular. Efficient, but the big thing for me with Burrow is the third downs. He wasn't able to convert. I mean, that's really the story of the game. The Bengals could move the ball a little bit. They could get some things going, but whenever they were in a spot where they had to make something happen, they failed to do it. I kind of agree with everything you said. I think the question after this game for both teams is, are the Patriots going to be able to sustain this level of play? And on the opposite side, is Cincinnati going to be able to put this behind them, turn it around? We kind of have a feeling and expect Joe Burrow and the team to turn it around. It's how soon are they able to do that? And the Patriots, how long can they cling to that momentum? That's going to be fun to watch these next few weeks.
And part of turning it around, you have to be better than 36%, 4 out of 11 third down conversions.
Yeah, that's not going to do it. And 4 out of 11 conversions isn't going to do it either.
Really hoping you just let that one slide right under the rug.
No. You should have. You've known me long enough to know. I could see when you said it. You're like, don't do it, 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 don't do it.
All right, Tristan, I know you don't want to talk about it. I hope you have your plate of crow ready because the Jags roller coaster show is back again for 2024, everybody. It's here. And matter of fact, it didn't even happen. We didn't have to wait the whole season for it to happen. It happened in a game. The Jags looked like they were unstoppable. The Dolphins were playing sloppy. Tua was on the floor most of the first half. But somehow, the Jags found a way to completely lose track of the football game, let the Dolphins come back. Look, they were even slamming Tyreek Hill on the ground in handcuffs, okay, at some point.
No, their undercover cop couldn't stop them.
Half the other offense of the Dolphins was in handcuffs. Like, none of that mattered because the Jags did what the Jags do in Jags fashion. Please tell me, what in the world makes you believe that this team is going to do any better than they did last year after this performance today?
Well, nothing.
Okay.
Nothing at all. And if the only reason I'm not getting off the Jags roller coaster is because, have you ever been on a roller coaster? They lock you in. The little thing falls down and you're stuck. I've tried at this point. Halfway through that game, I was like, "Give someone help." I couldn't get off. And it's so funny. I messaged you and was like, "How you feel about those Dolphins now or those Jaguars now?" You were like, you said it's a roller coaster and this is just the incline, which was such a perfect line. And you were right because the Jags fell apart.
Look, to be fair, I thought that they had this game. I thought I was ready to admit, I was ready to come on the show tonight and say, you know what? I'm okay with it. The Jags won this game. It's okay. They're going to start on the incline this year instead of starting on the decline. But guess what? Midway through the season, they're going to crash. I didn't have to wait that long.
You said they crashed halfway through the game.
Which they just started plummeting.
Right. I mean, and that's where it shifted because the Jags were shut out in the second half.
Yep.
Like they played well in the first half, especially defensively, 17-7 going into the halftime. And after the second quarter, the Jaguars did not put a single point on the board.
Not one.
Really, the turning point of the game to me was a fumble. Like it was, the Jaguars were literally about to score and Travis Etienne fumbled almost through the end zone, but I believe it was covered in the end zone and the Dolphins got the ball back. And that was it. It was off and running. The story of this game to me is the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence's inability to make a play happen when you have to have it. They had so many opportunities to convert, to keep drives alive, and they could not do it. We talked about this a little bit when we talked about the Detroit game and third downs, but that was kind of the issue for the Jaguars. If you look at their first downs, 17 first downs compared to the Dolphins' 18. So pretty similar. Like their yards, everything is even. But the big story is right here, third down efficiency. The Dolphins, 8 for 16 on third downs, 50%. Okay. The Jaguars, 2 for 10. They converted 2 third downs all football game and 0 for 1 on fourth downs. That was the story. They did good when they got in the red zone. They were in the red zone 3 times. They scored on 2 of them. The other was a turnover, which really ended up losing them the game. I like Trevor Lawrence, but at a certain point, when you're getting paid this much money, you have to step up. We're not really talking about this game tonight, in Buffalo. Josh Allen struggled. The Bills struggled. Kyler Murray was playing fantastic. And Josh Allen, because he's getting paid $600 billion, took the Bills franchise, strapped it into a knapsack, put it on his back, and carried it across the finish line. Trevor Lawrence won't even put the fucking organization in a knapsack. He just leaves it there on the sideline. He's like the car sticker of the little kid pissing on a logo, except he's pissing on the Jaguars logo. I don't know what has to happen for Trevor Lawrence to live up to what I thought was his potential. 12 for 21, 162 yards and a touchdown. That's not going to get it done in the AFC, buddy.
So how much of this is Trevor Lawrence? How much is it the offensive play calling and the just utter like no competence whatsoever in how to run a football game once you're up? Like the Jags have been doing this for 2 years. They've gotten up in games and then they just lose it. They completely lose it.
I think it's probably about 60-50, 60 offensive play calling, 60-50, that'd be 110. It's not the way math works, you podcaster. 60-40, I'd say 60, the offensive coordinator, 40, Trevor Lawrence. I don't think the offensive play calling is great. I don't think the offense is some mastermind that you have to really scheme around. They were doing, an okay job. But just look at the numbers. Say you didn't watch the game, okay? Just compare the two quarterbacks. Most people who just watch the quarterbacks play on throughout their careers would say, oh, Trevor Lawrence, guaranteed better quarterback than Tua, right? You would take him every day of the week. Tua, 23 for 37, 338 yards and a touchdown. Trevor Lawrence, 12 for 21, 162 yards and a touchdown. Both got 3 sacks, but you need more from your quarterback. That's the bottom line. I'm not even putting a ton of blame on Trevor and saying, you messed up here, you messed up here, you messed up here. I'm just saying when you get paid a massive contract, you have to be able to have success when the play breaks down. That's what elite quarterbacks do. Yeah, Jared Goff, he's great when everything's on schedule. You have to make something happen when the defense has your number and there's nowhere to go with the football. Can you make something happen? If you can't, why am I giving you so much money? And you could make that same argument about Tua, but right now I'm just so frustrated with Trevor Lawrence because I see the potential. I saw him carry Clemson. I saw what he could do that first season with Doug Peterson, and it just seems like that is such a bygone memory of the past at this point.
Yeah, it does. It does. One question I want to ask you before we wrap up here. I want to know what you think about the rushing attempts for Miami. Are you concerned at all? I mean, it seems like they were splitting the backfield, maybe 60-50. But overall, do you think that the rushing game needs to improve for this team to be successful in the long haul?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't have this again. A-Chain had like 24 yards. What Mostert had 9. Jeff Wilson, 26. Jeff Wilson was their leading rusher with 26 yards. I mean,
Jeff Wilson. How many people, put in the comments, how many people took Jeff Wilson off your draft board before A-Chain or Mostert?
Yeah, Jeff Wilson, I guarantee you the over-under on rush yards was like 7.5.
Didn't even know he still played for the Dolphins.
Neither did I. He hit the over. Tua throwing for 37 times a game is not really a recipe for success. You want to have a more balanced team, but I actually came away with this game, if anything, surprised by the Dolphins. I thought the defense was going to be a real issue for the team. It might end up being. They were playing the roller coaster team, but the fact that they were able to hold the Jags to 17 points, I was pretty impressed with. I was impressed with Tua. He played well. The offensive line was not very good. We knew that was going to be an issue, and we're going to see how they handle that going forward because only rushing for 60, 70 yards, that's just not going to do it. You're going to have to be able to do better to have a more balanced attack. But overall, I think you have to come away from this game at least, a little impressed with Miami and severely disappointed with Jacksonville. It's week 1. A lot of things can happen, but you're worried if you're down in Duval.
Yeah, you know why also you're worried is because next week, guess who you got to play? The Browns, and then you got to play the Bills, and then the Texans, and then the Colts.
Good Lord. Yeah, man. I'll tell you this.
Oh, wait. Hang on. Then the Bears, the Patriots, the Packers, the Eagles, the Vikings, the Lions, all before your bye week.
That's brutal.
You play like this, and I get that it's week 1, okay?
Of course.
And we're not overreactors here, but we are concerned that it seems as if the Jags have brought 2023 habits back into 2024, and they're continuing to ride this roller coaster, man. And I know I keep it's repetitious that I say it's a roller coaster, but give me any other type of synonym for this Jags team.
You could say it's a merry-go-round, but I like the way roller coaster comes off the tongue better. Either way, it's up, down, it's around in circles. It's the same thing over and over again. And I agreed with you. We're not overreacting to week 1, but with that schedule, we're going to find out really quick who the Jags are. Seriously, we'll check back in on this podcast. We'll check back in around week 3, week 4. We'll have a pretty good idea what this team's going to look like down the stretch.
Tristan, let's talk about The quarterback everybody had eyes on for week 1, Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. They managed to pull out a victory today. At times, it was a little sloppy. The first half was really all Tennessee. Will Levis had this team rolling. Come second half, the Bears said, no, not so fast, and they put the Titans to bed. We are friends with a couple of Titans fans. I had one text me today that said that they were ready to fire Will Levis. I don't put the full blame on Will Levis. It's not all his fault. It's a team effort. But he did make some pretty terrible decisions on the field.
Yeah, the pick lost him the game.
Yeah, it did. But Caleb Williams, let's talk about him first because I think that's what's on the top of everybody's mind.
They did win the game, so let's lead with the winner.
They did. They came back in the second half and won the game. But should they be concerned about Caleb's performance?
Yes and no. Okay, let me try to approach this as reasonably as I can.
We hope you will.
Realists who watch football, like you and I, be honest, Ryan Lambert, are you surprised from this performance by Caleb?
Surprised?
Yeah.
Surprised in a negative or positive aspect?
Are you surprised or are you like, yeah, no. I could, yeah.
This is this to me.
Hey, and why are you not surprised?
Yeah, so this to me is a very just flatline performance from Caleb Williams. I don't think it's the best. I think you saw a lot of college come out in Caleb Williams today.
And why is that?
Well, because he's a rookie.
Because he's a rookie.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Everyone has been hyping it. Look, I like Nick Wright. Nick Wright picked the Chicago Bears to go to the Super Bowl.
The what?
I mean, don't even start with me. The Chicago Bears to go to the Super Bowl. The Bears would be a good little league team, though. So the kid's a rookie. I know how good he looked in college. I understand he's a generational prospect. I love you in the offseason. You said, how many times have I heard that in the past 5 years? Generational prospect. If it happens every year, they're not generational.
There's very few times where a quarterback is still the generational prospect week 1.
Exactly.
CJ Stroud is the anomaly to this. Caleb Williams, you got grounded today.
That's exactly. You got woken up. Welcome to the NFL. I love there was a clip going around of Bill Belichick. They were talking to him. They said, well, Caleb Williams was pretty good and accurate in the preseason. And Bill Belichick said, well, he wasn't that accurate. He was 10 for 20. And he's a realist because the preseason's not real football. Should the Chicago Bears be concerned? Not necessarily, but I think this brings all the people that were hyping him up maybe back to the level they should be at. This is what I expected from a week 1 rookie quarterback. He was watching the rush way too much. He was constantly running around trying to make a play instead of just trying to play within the structure of the offense. And I think that's from college because he could get away with that in college. That's not going to work in the NFL. You have to operate the offense. You have to throw from within the pocket. And then when the pocket breaks down, when the play breaks down, then you can try to make something happen. He was 14 for 29, 93 yards, averaged 3.2 yards per attempt. But make no mistake, the Chicago Bears did not win this game because of Caleb Williams. Two reasons they won the game. A blocked punt that was recovered for a touchdown, and Will Levis single-handedly saying, I don't think I want to win this game. Take it. And he just slung the ball to the other team. So you're not worried about Caleb Williams, but you're realistic, and you have to accept that this is going to be a long learning curve.
Yeah, if you're crediting anybody on the Bears, it's going to be the special teams, and it's going to be the defense.
Yes.
They are what won the game.
Absolutely.
Because Caleb Williams played at 48% in completion rate. That's not great.
Not good.
Not good at all. Joe Burrow in a sloppy loss had like a 76% completion rate. So before you go and ride the Caleb Williams train, just know that he's still playing with some college demons in the closet, and he has to shake them. Even the announcers were talking about, like, hey, you took these hits in college. You can't take them against professional football players now. Like, it completely changes your entire outlook. And what you get from the preseason, if they actually played the preseason, it'd be different. But what you get in the preseason is night and day from what week 1 is when you get into the NFL. Like,
you're playing cover 2 against backups.
That's it. That's exactly right. Last question. And I'm going to switch over to talk about the Titans because I do believe that the Titans, and I said this before, the Titans are a lot better than I think what most people maybe thought they would.
Okay. I don't want to give away too much of the Titans because we will touch on them in Panic Meter, but please, with the question.
I just want to know from you, do you think that Will Levis is the generational quarterback for the Titans? Maybe not generational.
Rephrase that.
Do you think Will Levis is the franchise quarterback for the Tennessee Titans?
No.
All righty.
I do not. I actually had a little bit of hope for Will Levis this year. And Will Levis, I think I said a couple weeks when we were doing our preview show, I think I said we kind of know what Will Levis is going to be. He's going to make a couple, holy crap, man, this might be the guy.
He's got an arm. He's got an arm.
And he can run. And then he's going to make some plays that leave you scratching your head, calling Roger Goodell to ask if you could redo the draft. Like, it is up and down with him. He makes some good plays, but his decision-making and his panicking is a concern.
Not to bring up the Bills, but do you remember who else did this early in their career?
Yeah, I understand, but the talent difference was night and day.
Maybe, yes.
No, it's not maybe. A strong arm does not give you the talent that Josh Allen had. And Josh Allen was unlocked. You know, I give you credit for that. But Will Levis is lacking a lot.
All I'm saying is there's a chance that Will Levis could also be unlocked a little step further. He will never be as good as Josh Allen. You can't make me believe that. But I'm just saying, with the right coach in there, I think it could really change Will Levis and maybe make him, like, if we're on percentages, like 12% better. 12% better Will Levis could be a franchise quarterback.
Yes, kind of like what we said about Williams. If Levis would play within structure of the offense and not panic, and I understand, I guess this is why I wasn't a quarterback, because I don't understand the absolute unwillingness to punt. It is not bad to punt the ball, especially when the rookie quarterback on the other team cannot score. Caleb Williams wasn't going to score any points, and they lost it because of the special teams, and then he literally just gave them the game away because he didn't want to get sacked. A great comparison to Josh Allen. Josh Allen did a bunch of that stuff in his career, and he still does that stuff from time to time. It's not as bad as it was when he was young, but Josh Allen's still known for fumbles and picks. Hell, he had a fumble today. So I don't know. I don't know how much you can coach that out of him. We'll see. I'm willing to give him a little bit of leeway. I think, no, he's not the franchise quarterback. I think immediately this offseason you're looking for a new guy, but let's give him till November and see if he improves, because it's possible, although unlikely.
All right, Tristan, let's talk about the money game, the Friday night game in Brazil, played on a soccer field, which led to what I believe several injuries for a lot of players. May not be, out multiple weeks or anything, but man, this field was awful. And this is what happens whenever you play an international game. And look, I'm all for spreading NFL out, but if we're going to do this, we have to do it on the fields that are custom made for NFL football games.
It is unacceptable to allow what happened to happen.
As much player safety as they want to push down our throats.
Yep.
This is the biggest, hole in player safety that there is. Yes. You're going to put these guys, I think there's a total of 5 or 6 international games this year. I think 3 of them are in London or something like that.
Yeah, there might be more than that, man.
Yeah, it's somewhere 5, 6, 7 games. But I know why you had to pick these. And beautiful stadium, by the way. That stadium is awesome.
Yeah. I wish they would have turned the announcer down a little bit, but
let's not talk about that, because that will just piss me off.
I could not hear the TV commentators.
I don't even mind it that he was on there and you could hear, but it's the fact that they were just both talking over each other.
It was annoying.
And by the way, if you have English and Portuguese blended, you can't understand anything.
I wish they would have left the U.S. commentators at home and just let me listen to the Portuguese stadium announcer.
I've been fine with that. Jordan Love did suffer an MCL injury. He's going to be out 3 to 6 weeks. Not a season-ending injury, which is great, but can Green Bay survive his absence and remain contenders?
Considering their backup quarterback literally couldn't even throw a Hail Mary properly, I think it's looking rough, buddy.
At what point do you reach out to Ryan Tannehill? And just say, hey, you want to come play for a few weeks?
Hey, I would call Tom Brady, ask him how much Fox is paying him.
Okay, time out. What was your review of Tom Brady in the box? Because
not very good.
Not great. He's the GOAT of football. Not going to be the GOAT of... By the way, his voice, the frequency, don't even care for that much, to be honest with you.
I kind of thought that his cadence and pauses were a little weird, but
it's okay. Greg Olsen is gone.
Yeah, we missed Greg Olsen. But first week, so I'm giving him some leeway. Back to Jordan Love. I don't think the Packers can survive it. I really don't. I think there's a good chance they lose every game. The question of can they survive it honestly depends on how long he's out. If he's out 3 weeks, yeah, there's no way. I mean, they could go 0-4, 1-3. I remember the game he played against Kansas City and started for Tennessee. He could not throw the football. It baffles me that he's their backup quarterback. I feel like they have to have another option. They have to find somebody off the street. I would call Taylor Heineke, try to steal him from the Falcons if he's still there. Hell, I don't know. You can't go with Malik Willis. It's going to be a problem.
I would, funny enough, they play the Titans next week. I would not hesitate to call Ryan Tannehill and just see if he would like to come play for a few weeks. And maybe it's going to be better than Malik Willis. I promise you that. Listen to this. 3 to 6 weeks. I'm going to go ahead and read you the next 6 games, okay? The Tennessee Titans, the Minnesota Vikings, the Rams, the Cardinals, the Texans. Out of that stretch of games, with the quarterback situation they currently have with Malik Willis, they maybe win against the Titans. Because I got news for you. Sam Darnold and the Vikings, they look pretty darn good.
They did, but we said this was going to happen. Remember?
We did.
I've been anti-Sam Darnold. I said he's going to fool everybody for a few weeks. So I'm not jumping on that train yet.
But if we're going to give people the leeway of saying, hey, it's week 1, they're dusting off some, we're going to give Sam Darnold the credit that he's due.
He was great.
He played a fantastic game. He was the leading quarterback for most of the day on Sunday. So, look, I think that this team without Jordan Love falls back to a very mediocre team. If you want to try to salvage a few of these games, potentially 3 or 6 games, you have to bring somebody in that is going to play a little bit better than Malik Willis.
I completely agree. I think
maybe the water boy.
It couldn't hurt. If there are 6 games, if he's out 6 games, realistically, you want to go 3-3, right? To keep the season alive, because you already got a loss. So if just say he missed 6 games, you went 3-3. Jordan Love's going to come back. You're going to be 3-4. You can salvage that. I picked the Packers to go to the Super Bowl. First, Jordan Love was up and down in that game as is. Right now, I am absolutely sounding the alarm bells. Not because I don't believe in Jordan Love. I think he could come back and, win games and carry the team. I don't know if it's going to be salvageable when he returns. We're going to have to watch Green Bay really closely the next 3 weeks. Oh, here's a good question. Is Malik Willis the starting quarterback for every game Jordan Love is out?
No.
I agree. No chance.
I think they were on the phone on the plane back Friday night.
Yeah, but they don't have anyone to blame but themselves. The fact that they went into week 1 is this is your backup. I know there's not a lot of great quarterbacks to go around. It feels like you should have put some other contingency plan in place.
All right, Tristan, let's talk about 2 teams that I think are high up there for everybody as their early picks for this year and the favorites for possibly a Super Bowl. The Kansas City Chiefs, the Philadelphia Eagles. Look, I know we still have 1 game left. As of recording this right now, it's Sunday night, and we still have the Monday night game left. So 49ers and Jets are still on the table. We get that. But as it stands right now, are the Chiefs and the Eagles early season favorites to you?
The Chiefs absolutely are. I mean, I feel like really, especially after that Ravens game.
And until the game tonight, you would have said the Eagles were.
Yeah, right. But no, the Chiefs look terrific. They look better than last year. Thank you, Buffalo, for Xavier Worthy. That boy, he's going to be
anything we can do to help you guys win another Super Bowl.
Seriously, we appreciate it. He's going to be a problem. The Eagles are the more interesting question, even though I'm a Chiefs fan. Obviously, the Chiefs are the favorite. Yes, moving on to the Eagles. I think the Eagles are so talented. I think, obviously, the addition of Kellen Moore was huge. I mean, how big of a difference was the offensive play calling from last year to this year? I mean, it was night and day, right? Just in that one game. It looked amazing. Defense looked a lot better. They've got some players. Reed Blankenship. They've got some players in the secondary. The defensive line for the Eagles, though, not as dominant as they should be. I feel like these Georgia players they've drafted haven't really come into their own like we kind of maybe expected or hoped they would. We'll have to see how that develops. The question I kind of want to throw back at you, I'd say yes, obviously the Eagles are one of the favorites. They looked good. I'm going to say it quietly for my Philadelphia fans, but hell, they might be saying it louder than me. Are we a little worried about Jalen Hurts?
Were you waiting for the Eagles fan to drop down out of your ceiling and just decapitate you? Yeah.
He was a little all over the place, right?
Yeah, but he had to be. Like, it was just one of those games. And
did he have to throw across his body interceptions? I don't know if he had to do that.
No,
that
probably
wasn't
not.
in the rule book.
Probably not. But also, Brazil, Also, Friday night.
You're kind of giving him a mulligan.
Dude, and I said this before. I said this last week. Like, the first week of games is always skewed. And then also the first week of games in another country on a soccer field is different. So I'm not prepared to answer that question right now because I don't think we've seen a fully judgeable performance from Jalen Hurts right now. Now, I know you moved past the Chiefs pretty quick, okay? And I know you're they're favorites and blah, blah, blah. The Ravens were not bad.
Ryan.
And the Texans were not bad either. So I don't know if you can say that the Chiefs are just the favorites and just move on and just glaze past it.
Put the Texans aside.
Okay.
Let's go to Chiefs-Ravens for a second.
Okay.
What in the hell gives you confidence after watching that game that
Tristan, it was a big toe away
from overtime? From them going for 2?
They would have went for 2, and they probably would have gotten it.
Probably. We don't know. They couldn't even score. They couldn't score a touchdown, but they definitely would have got the 2.
But you're prepared to say that the Ravens are a much less team after they almost tied the game and potentially won?
First off, Chiefs were sloppy. There were penalties galore. Hollywood Brown wasn't playing.
Okay.
If they here's the main thing for me. Lamar Jackson. I like Lamar. You like Lamar. He missed 2 wide open game-winning touchdowns. He missed the 1 to, I believe it was, can't remember who it was in the quarter. He had one dude in the corner on a post. If he would have put it right, it was a touchdown. And then he missed Zay Flowers, absolutely wide open. My grandma could have thrown that one, and she's dead. What gives you confidence that they could beat him in the playoffs? Because that's my thing.
Well, because it's Lamar Jackson. And look,
exactly.
I will say this.
Yes.
Lamar Jackson seems to only be good at one thing at a time. He can't be good at running and passing. He can't be good at passing and running. It's either the season of running or the season of passing. Last year, he was a great passer. Didn't run that much. But, oh boy, the other night, he looked back in like he did in 2022. Like he was much lighter. He lost some weight. He was just the way he was moving. He was more dynamic in the pocket. Like if he could just get the arm dialed in, and I think that his legs were just like outrunning the passes sometimes. Like I don't think he was used to throwing on the run as much as he had been like back in 22. So if he can find a way to balance that out and have a good run and a good passing game, then I think he's going to be deadly. But another thing I want to mention is...
Can I just interject real quick on the rush? Because it's on the rushing? Yep. No, just to add to your point. He ran 16 carries, 122 yards. That's not sustainable over the course of this whole season. He was clearly unleashing because it was the Chiefs who really wanted this game. I assume they'll dial it back, but he can't do that all year. Like it's not possible.
How many yards did he run?
122.
He may have been the leading rusher overall in week 1.
By far. Oh, no, he was. He's a leading rusher in the league.
Too.
Yes.
Yeah. That's crazy. I didn't realize he ran that much.
Right. 273.
One thing I will say, speaking of tight ends and big toes and whatever, can we now say that you and I were right about the Mark Andrews situation? Like he's done. He's not the tight end of this team anymore. It's clearly Isaiah Likely. He is a beast. He is phenomenal at tight end.
And you know the big stat to me, it's not even the yards, it's the targets. Mark Andrew 2 targets, Isaiah Likely 12. Leading target share, Isaiah Likely. I saw that last year and I was like, Likely's really good. And then this year, Mark Andrews in fantasy was getting drafted with like Kelsey and Laporta. And I thought that was absurd. Me and you talked about it. We said, I wouldn't touch Mark Andrews in the 10th round. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just because the injuries in the past. We'll see if it sustains, but Likely is clearly not just is he the tight end, he's their second best receiving option behind Zay Flowers.
The pass that he caught in the back of the end zone to almost win the game was a terrific pass. And again, if you would have just had a little bit smaller foot, it would have been a touchdown. But I do think that this Ravens team, I think a lot of it was also like the week 1 jitters. I know.
I'll tell you what the jitters were. It was that logo that's got a K and a C in it because he can't beat Daddy, Ryan. He just can't.
All right, yeah. I mean, neither can Josh Allen. I mean, I'm used to it, okay? I know Ravens fans are just getting used to this. Like, it's new to them. It's fresh. Yeah. It happens a lot, okay? Happens a lot.
That's true.
I know that the Chiefs are clearly your favorite. I just don't think they have that big of a gap between the Ravens and the Texans. I do think that all 3 of these teams deserve a podium spot.
I mean, I agree with you. I don't necessarily disagree. I'm just... I'm looking at it through the lens of eventually it's going to be a playoff game where you have to play Kansas City. And I just have no faith that Lamar can beat him. Can Stroud? I don't know. We haven't seen Stroud go against Mahomes, but it seems like Lamar just can't get past him.
I have a hard time telling where Kansas City fan ends and realist football fan begins.
You don't think I'm being a realist by saying I don't trust that Baltimore can beat him in the playoffs?
I don't know if you are or not. Because I get mixed because you're a Kansas City fan. So I don't know how much of it is just like a little bit of bias.
So let me answer that with the best way I can be possible. Honestly, as a Kansas City fan, not analyzing football, because honestly, when I do this show, and you know this, I swear I try to be as unbiased as possible. I don't ever want to get on here and give biased takes because one, that's not fun. Just as a fan, pretending we don't even do this. As far as quarterbacks, I'm scared for my team to face in the playoffs. The number one is Joe Burrow. I am terrified of the Chiefs playing Joe Burrow because he's beaten us.
PTSD.
Right. He's beaten us in the playoffs. He's beaten us in the regular season. He scares me. Number two is Josh Allen. He's beaten us in the regular season. He always puts on the cape. It always comes down to the wire. Number three is Lamar Jackson. I promise you, if they said right now the Chiefs playoff game is against the Ravens, I really wouldn't be concerned at all. Maybe that's not fair, but that's just how I feel.
You mentioned that Lamar Jackson missed, you pointed out 2 plays where he missed wide open targets. If he would have nailed those 2 wide open targets, would your opinion of the Ravens completely change? Were those 2 targets enough to, if he would have nailed them, would you have said, oh, okay, this Ravens team is something to worry about?
If he would have gotten them and gotten the 2 points, if he would have won the game, yes.
Okay.
And it's really not even losing, it's the missed them. And it's a little bit unfair because you're asking the guy to carry the team, and he carries the team so well all night long, and he makes one mistake and you crucify him, but it's like they wouldn't even be in that position without him. He's so good.
I know I said last thing, but I forgot this. You got Derrick Henry. Can we please use him a little bit more?
They have no idea what offensive scheme they want to run with Derrick Henry. I thought it would be solely based around RPOs with Derrick Henry, right? Isn't that just a logical scenario? It's like, so that way the defense has to think, do we want to defend Lamar? Do we want to defend Henry? Do we want to defend the pass? Hell, half the time he wasn't even out there. They were putting Justice Hill in. I will be interested to see how they adjust because it was clear. Some people are going to say Derrick Henry's washed. No. They didn't put him in any advantageous situations. They hardly used him. Is Baltimore going to figure out how to use Derrick Henry, or did they just burn $8 million? We'll find out probably by about week 6 or 7.
Derrick Henry played 37 snaps.
There you go.
Lamar Jackson played 79. Here we go with our new segment, Week 1 Panic Meter. As the team, how concerned are you after Week 1 on these specific teams? Tristan, I want you to answer these for me. Let's start out. This is going to be on a scale of 1 through 10, 10 being the most panicked you've ever been. The house is on fire. You have to run out, grab all of your belongings, and get out. Level 1 is couldn't care less. You know, you're just sitting on the dock of the bay, and you're relaxing, eating a box of Hush Puppies, okay?
Just like Otis Redding.
Let's start off with, and we mentioned them earlier, we talked about them a little bit, the Cincinnati Bengals after their abysmal performance against the New England Patriots that they were favored by 9.5 points.
Might be a little hyperbolic. Bengals fans might come at me. I think the Cincinnati Bengals are putting the panic meter firmly at 8 to 9, okay? Mainly because the absence of Joe Mixon was really felt. That fumble when they were about to score really turned the game around. They could not run the football. The defense didn't look good. Lou Anarumo is usually a defensive wizard. They struggled. The main thing is, Ryan, it was the Patriots. Maybe they're going to be better than we thought, but even if they're better than we thought, the roster is still terrible. The Patriots roster is atrocious, and they manhandled the Bengals. This was one of those games. There was really not any stretch of that game where you felt like Cincinnati was going to win. The Patriots thoroughly dominated. The Bengals always get off to a slow start because of the schedule, because of the offseason issues, because of the Joe Burrow injury, all the drama. I don't know if they can get off to a slow start this year and survive. Obviously, it's fixable, but they're not leaving that game feeling good or being like, oh, it's week 1. I promise you they're concerned. It's firmly an 8, at least.
Couldn't agree with you more. They left a lot to be desired. Let's move on to the New York Giants and the biggest waste of money with Daniel Jones that there's ever been in the NFL, if you ask me. This team looked pretty terrible as well. Malik Neighbors had a couple of flashes of like decent receiver material, but ultimately Daniel Jones threw the ball to the other team more than he did Malik Neighbors, I believe. So tell me your panic meter on Daniel Jones if you want to. That's fine too, but the New York Giants organization in a whole.
This is interesting because I'm going to say the New York Giants, they are panicking. They're in an 8. However, you could say it's a 1 because this is probably what you expected, right? Like, did anyone expect anything different? I know we didn't. I don't know.
I did pick the Giants to win because I thought this was going to be one of those crazy upsets and Malik Neighbors was going to go off. But,
and you are such an honorable character. I totally forgot. I was going to let it slide. Yeah, and now, I can't laugh at you. My picks were awful this week. Tune in later this week to see our week 2 picks and our week 1 reaction. Like that plug. Okay. So it's an 8. They're panicking, but I think it's just kind of what they expected. How much can you panic when you know you're awful? Like if you have a car that doesn't run and you go in, you try to crank it and it doesn't start. Do you go, oh no, it won't start? Or do you just say, yeah, just like yesterday.
How did this happen?
Exactly. So it's an 8, but it's also a 1 because this is who New York is. Get Daniel Jones out of town. Everyone's fired. Everyone's fired. Dayball, you had the one good season. Congratulations. You're gone. Yeah. Joe Shane, you're gone.
Come back over to Buffalo. Let's be the OC again because we did great when you were the OC and you unlocked Josh Allen in a way nobody else has been able to do before. I agree with you on the Giants. When your muffler's dragging the ground, you can't expect that car to just run tip-top. Daniel Jones has to go. You have to just eat it and say, we sucked it up. We paid him too fast. It was the fastest pay I've ever seen for a mediocre quarterback there was.
Mediocre is generous. Bad.
Very bad. Let's move on to the next team, and let's also talk about their quarterback, the Carolina Panthers, man. We thought, and you even said it in our preseason predictions, they can't be that bad again, right? They have to be better. I don't know that they will be. Because after this performance, oh my gosh, Bryce Young looked worse than he did the last game he played in the NFL.
Panic meter for the Carolina Panthers is a 7. I might be being generous. Yeah.
That's very generous because I'm up at 8.5 to 9.
It's similar to what I said with the Giants. It could be a 10. I'm putting it 7 because they knew they were going to be awful. I don't think that they thought they were going to go in there and lose 47-10. Bryce Young, 13 for 30 for 161 yards, 2 interceptions, a 32 quarterback rating. Derek Carr had a 142. Bryce Young is not an NFL quarterback. I am starting to doubt he will be the quarterback all 17 games. Like Andy Dalton might end up being the starter for this team. It's bad. We knew it was going to be bad, but oh God, it's so much worse than we expected.
5 turnovers. The Panthers had 5 turnovers.
He can't play quarterback, Ryan.
No, he can't. This is the most stark contrast between Alabama quarterbacks. I mean, you had Jalen Hurts, you had Tua, and we worried about Tua. He seems to have turned the page with a couple of jiu-jitsu lessons. I don't think that there's anything Bryce Young can do to regain his footing in the NFL. Tell me what you would do if you were the coach for the Carolina Panthers right now. Would you pull Bryce Young at some point this season? I don't even know who their backup is.
I would probably get a bottle of liquor and the nearest shotgun if I was the head coach of the Carolina Panthers.
I think that's already happened.
Yeah, man. And by the way, for anyone listening for the first time or not unaware, we're from Alabama. Like we've grown up lifelong Alabama fans. I love Bryce Young. He was incredible in college. He carried us. He is a terrible NFL quarterback. Ryan, Bryce Young makes Mac Jones look like Tom Brady.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a big statement.
Would you rather have Mac Jones or Bryce Young?
Oh, Mac Jones, yeah. There is no worse quarterback. I would rather have Daniel Jones than Bryce Young.
At least he can do something every now and then.
At least he can throw the ball and not take a sack or throw an interception.
It's rough in Carolina.
Bryce Young looks like a high schooler quarterback on the NFL field.
Yeah. How long before he's benched?
Week 5.
It sucks because he's a young quarterback, so it's like you want to ride with him. But I think the experiment's over, right?
Well, yeah, I do. And also, I just want to, I know we haven't done this on any other team. We got to be quick, but I just want to point out that they play the Chargers, the Raiders, the Bengals, the Bears, the Falcons, the Commanders, and the Broncos in like their next 5 to 6 games. Tell me where you have a W at all after this performance. It can't get that much better. Like, I was expecting today, even if they lost, they would have kept it within, like, I even said in the show, I think I picked them to kind of finish close, within like a touchdown. The Saints stomped a hole in them, turned around, stomped another hole in them, and then the second string stomped a hole in them.
Yeah.
Like, it was terrible.
Unless Carolina has any games scheduled in Gotham City where Bane might show up with a charge to detonate the field, I don't think they're winning. And that would be a tie.
The Falcons. All right. I'm a little on the fence.
So it's your segment now.
I'm just saying.
Fuck with you.
I want to know what you think, but also I'm torn because I do think that Kirk Cousins played better than I thought he would coming off of that type of injury at his age. But the Falcons still lost 18-10 to the Steelers with Justin Fields. Where's your panic meter? Tell me.
For the Falcons or for the Steelers?
For the Falcons.
So Falcons, even though I said they would disappoint everyone, I thought they would win this game. Panic meter's at a 5. Like,
middle of the road.
I think you're worried, but I wouldn't say you're panicked, right? Definitely not the way you wanted things to go, but you come out of that game as a coach thinking we can improve, we have some things to work on, we have some talent, we can get the team better, right?
Well, yeah, and one thing I'm going to be looking at is you got Kirk Cousins to throw the ball 26 times. You only handed the ball off to Bijan Robinson 18.
Yeah.
You got to increase the workload because when Bijan had the ball, he did pretty good. Why are we putting the game on Kirk Cousins' shoulders when it's 18-10? Like, it's not like they were ahead like the Saints were to the Panthers. It was a game where you could still manage the run game, manage the clock, and not have to utilize Kirk Cousins in a 2-minute offense style. Like, he had 2 interceptions, 2 sacks. Like, he was not in a position to succeed in this game because I don't think they utilized the run enough.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think it just got away from them. 2 things that stand out if you look at the box score, like the 2 stats that scream to me. Again, one of my favorite stats to go to because I just think it tells you a lot. Third down efficiency, whereas the Steelers were 8 for 17, 47%. The Falcons were 2 for 9. So 22% on third downs. And the other one, 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, and 1 lost fumble. That's what swings it. In a close game, 3 turnovers when the other team has none, that kills you, man. That's it. The Steelers had a fumble, but they didn't lose it. So I think the Falcons come out of that game saying, Kirk is limited. He's obviously still recovering, but he was out there. He played. We've got some playmakers. We need to have a more balanced offense. We need to increase Bijan's workload. And really, we just got to clean up the mess. You know what I mean? If we can not turn the football over and we can be a little bit more efficient, stay ahead of the sticks and convert third downs, we're going to be a team that can win this division. Luckily, we're in the NFC South, so concerned but not freaking out for sure.
I think there's still a lot of season left to be played, and I think the Falcons still finish on top of their division. Let's move on to the Tennessee Titans. We touched on them briefly. We talked about Will Levis a little bit, but they did lose in really terrible fashion because they let the Bears come back and beat them. They let the Bears come back and not only beat them, but remain, I think, scoreless, right, in the second half?
Yeah, I believe
Close
so.
to scoreless. Where's your panic meter on the Titans? And obviously you don't think Will Levis is the franchise guy. Do you think that's the remedy to fix this organization?
I don't think going away from Will Levis this season is going to change anything. I would ride Will Levis, but I think the panic meter out of that game is 7 because all I think that did is I believe that game solidified the fact that we need a franchise quarterback. There was belief, at least, internally they might have known already. I actually was holding out hope that Will Levis might be able to be, obviously not a star, but a serviceable quarterback. That's, I think, out the window after today. And I really don't want to overreact over one pick, but you cannot make those kind of mistakes. When you make those type of mistakes in a game where the other team's offense cannot score, then how can I trust you to not make those mistakes when we got to play Kansas City? Or if by some miracle we were in the playoffs? You're not really panicking at a 7 because of your team. You're panicking at a 7 because the guy we thought we might could get by with is going to have to be, our second string next year. We need a quarterback. We're at a 7.
I do agree with you that the Titans are at a 7, but I do think that Will Levis is better than you give him credit for. Let's see what the rest of the season holds for the Titans. Let's move on to our last team to panic over, The Cleveland Browns, oh boy, I cannot wait to hear your panic meter on this, but also just how wrong a lot of Cleveland fans have been. That they've been in the comment section. They've been saying, "Oh, Deshaun, don't worry about the massages. It's okay because Deshaun's back. He threw for 45 attempts. He only got 24 of them, and they only ran the ball 12 times. They ran the ball 12 times. Why would you believe that the Cleveland Browns is not a 5-alarm fire right now?"
They are. My panic meter for the Cleveland Browns is at a strong 10. I mean, this is Spinal Tap, Ryan, and we're turning to 11 if you're Cleveland. Right. We are not a large channel by any means, and the amount of comments I have seen this offseason talking about, you're wrong about Deshaun. Deshaun was good last year. Deshaun's going to prove you wrong. And I'm really not meaning this to be mean. I'm seriously. Why? I really don't know. Are you just that hopeful? I really do think Cleveland fans that were tricking themselves into believing in Deshaun are upset, and I don't blame them. I would be too, because you have such a good roster, or at least you thought. You did let the Cowboys hang 33 on you. We'll talk about the defense another day. Deshaun Watson is one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. We said preseason. He has not been good since 2019. Why? If it was any other player on any other team that you didn't have a connection to, you would not say, hey, this dude that was good in 2019, he's going to come back and be awesome. It's not going to happen. Deshaun Watson is terrible, Ryan. He not only is he a bad quarterback, he's a liability.
24 for 45, 169 yards, 2 interceptions, 6 sacks, and 1 touchdown.
Yeah. And the numbers are alarming, but even if you just take the numbers away and I just gave you Cleveland offensive tape, you don't have to be an all-22 guru to watch him play and realize this dude sucks at football. I don't know what happened. I mean, I do know what happened because there was a lot of litigation. But besides that, I honestly think maybe just him being away from football for so long. I mean, he was basically out for 2.5 years. You just don't come back from that. We've been saying that from the start. We started our show. Our first episode ever of our first episode of podcast was us talking about Deshaun Watson returning as a football player.
Do you want to know what their third down percentage was?
My favorite stat. Give it to me.
13%. 2 of 15 on third down conversions.
Breaking news, hard to win football games like that.
Very, very difficult.
I think you're panicking too because Kevin Stefanski is a good coach. You've got a good staff. You've got a good players. But the owner went out and made what is objectively the worst trade in NFL history to get one of the worst starting quarterbacks. I mean, Ryan, if I said, would you rather have Deshaun Watson or Daniel Jones? Let's be honest, that's close. You're thinking about it. There's not an easy answer there.
Maybe. Yeah, there's not. I would rather not answer that. I plead the fifth on that.
And that's the man they gave a fully guaranteed contract to.
Rather have Baker Mayfield back.
Exactly. And that's why I kind of don't feel bad for him. I like Kevin Stefanski.
Tom Brady
his
says
fault,
that Nick Chubb is the reason why the Browns were not doing good today. Tom, got news for you.
Could Nick Chubb throw the ball? I didn't know that.
And we don't even know what Nick Chubb is going to be when he comes back. But I'll tell you this, with 12 carries, you won't know what he's like either.
Right.
I don't care. You have Jerome Ford, who is a really talented running back. We saw at the end of last season when he had to take over for Chubb.
Chubb went out early last year. Yeah.
He did great. Why did we not utilize him more? We all knew that the Browns would be that bad. They would be bad. At least you and I thought that.
Actually, I think you picked the over on them, so.
Well, okay, if we're just going to pull up receipts. But I never thought that the Browns would be this bad. I did not think that this defense would let the Cowboys hang 33 on them, especially after the ink hadn't even dried on Dak Prescott's check today.
Yeah. I agree. I was surprised at how bad the Cleveland defense was, but honestly, I think it's one of those scenarios that it's not even that your defense is bad. It's just at a certain point in the football game, they're human beings. They understand, dude, that fucking quarterback ain't going to help us. You know what I mean? So once you know, it's like, hey, we've made a couple stops, but our offense can't score a point. So you just kind of start to slack off. I don't even know if this is an indictment on the defense. It's just an indictment on the quarterback and knowing we can't win games with Deshaun Watson under center. We cannot do it. And I'm telling you guys, I don't know how much control the owner has. I mean, obviously, he's the one that made the trade. Stefanski never wanted to do it. The owner's the one that ran Baker Mayfield out of town because, God forbid, all he did was win them their first playoff game in decades. Couldn't have that. I don't know if the owner will allow it, but I promise this is why they went and got Jameis Winston. And if they're smart, they would start him next week. I know he's not great either. He's better than Deshaun Watson. He is. And anyone who thinks otherwise is delusional, or you're just straight lying to yourselves at this point.
I would take the multiple interceptions from Winston over the incompetence of Deshaun Watson.
At least Winston will give me some touchdowns.
Sound the alarm, grab the fire extinguisher, call the fire department, somebody load Deshaun Watson up onto the truck, get him a masseuse, and send him packing, and bring in Winston. I agree with you completely. It's a 10, it's a 12, it's a 15. All the bells, all the whistles, sound them right now. The Browns are a dumpster fire week 1. All right, guys, that's our show for this week. Week 1's in the books. I'm so excited that football's back. It was so nice. By the way, great job to whoever has Sunday Ticket and has joined with YouTube TV to watch that. It was a fantastic setup. The way you could customize your 4 boxes. It was fabulous. I'm so glad that we got that this year to enjoy that. Red Zone's great as always. This is just a small shout out to them because I didn't know how good Sunday Ticket was until today.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's so great.
Let's be honest. Let's just be frank.
Yeah.
You can be Ryan if you want to. I'm going to be frank. So Sunday Ticket's expensive. All right.
Yeah.
We paid $300 for it.
Yeah, we should probably a little bit less.
That's outrageous. However, I genuinely think it's worth it.
Yes.
And you know me. Me and you will be totally honest about prices, but I really think it is.
If you appreciate football and you actually watch it and you don't have, 10 different things pulling you in 10 different directions, kind of like I did today, but I was still able to watch football. But if you actually are a football junkie like we are, the reason you probably watch this show, you probably are, because you're looking down this low in the YouTube search algorithm to find us.
If you're
probably a football junkie. So I'm glad you're here, but get Sunday Ticket if you don't have it. Week 1's in the books.
This channel is like the meth pipe on the side of the road.
You heard it here, folks. We are the meth pipe. Tune in later this week for future predictions for week 2. We're going to talk and discuss all the games coming up on Sunday, coming up week. It's going to be great. I'm so happy that football's back, man. I'm so excited. And week 1 was a little bit of a letdown because I just don't think we saw the full potential of every team. But I tell you what, the Lions and the Rams really drove it home for me. That made me feel like football is back. It wrapped me in my nice, warm little cozy jacket of football. And we still got one more game left tomorrow night with the 49ers and the Jets.
Yeah,
I hope that no injuries take place on that game because I have between me and the guy I'm playing this week in fantasy, we have every 49ers player on the roster.
Good thing it's not in MetLife, but no, I agree. Glad football's back. that too. I'm excited, man. Thank you guys for watching the show. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Honestly, if you like genuine football discussions, water cooler football talk without the hot takes, and also having fun. You remember when football discussion used to be fun and lighthearted? Well, welcome to Sports Bluff.
Or if you like meth pipes.
Either one, we're here for you. Thank you for everything. We'll see you guys next week. Our picks will be coming out Thursday or Friday. Check that out, and we'll be recapping all the action. We are bluffing our way through the football season with you. See you next time. Goodbye.